Hi everyone, welcome to Bahal Recap. Today I will be explaining a drama film called The Passengers of the Night. Elisabeth is an ordinary middle-aged woman living in the 1980s. Though she once studied psychology and could have had a promising career, marriage turned her into a housewife early on. After more than a decade of devotion to her family, with her eldest daughter and youngest son nearly grown, her husband betrays her. He leaves the family for his mistress to start a new life. Suddenly divorced, Elisabeth sinks into days of bitterness and self-doubt. Every midnight, her melancholy hits its peak. Gazing at the flickering city lights outside, the only thing that saves her from this sea of bitterness is a radio program called The Passengers of the Night. The host, Vanda, uses her calm, magnetic voice to connect with listeners pouring out their secrets. It has a steady power that settles the heart. Elisabeth listens from deep in the night until dawn breaks, surviving one lonely night after another. Having lost the emotional pillar she leaned on for half her life, Elisabeth tries to reintegrate into society. But she loses her first hard-won job on day one simply because she forgot to save a computer file. Her daughter, Judith, can't help but laugh when she hears this. Passionate about political activism, Judith treats her mother's distress with a casual, it's no big deal attitude. Feeling she has nowhere to turn, Elisabeth attempts to write a letter to Vanda, the host of The Passengers of the Night. Unexpectedly, she gets a reply. She arrives at the studio, 3 small rooms for screening, directing, and broadcasting. It turns out those soothing voices are transmitted from this quiet, powerful place, different from what she imagined. In the booth, Elisabeth meets Vanda. The woman matches her voice, a sharp, charismatic, middle-aged woman with meticulously groomed blonde hair. Every move she makes is unhurried and composed. After hearing about Elisabeth's current troubles, Vanda extends an olive branch, asking her to replace a call screener who is about to leave. The job involves listening to callers, screening them, and passing them to the director. It's simple work, but it requires someone sensitive and empathetic. Elisabeth fits the bill perfectly, provided she doesn't mind the meager pay. Elisabeth is overjoyed. This job is a dream come true. Under the guidance of the current screener, she learns quickly. Connecting heart-to-heart with listeners through the phone line makes her feel capable and composed. Leaving the station and walking onto the quiet, empty streets, Elisabeth's steps are light, a relaxed smile finally appearing on her face. As days pass, the work becomes second nature. She spends far less time at home pitying herself, and her children are more willing to communicate with her. Her daughter Judith is bold and clear about her goals. Her son, Matthias, is more like his mother, introverted, sensitive, and often weighed down by heavy thoughts. Elisabeth worries more about Matthias, as his grades are poor and he refuses to open up to her. One night, a peculiar girl visits the station, dressed maturely with heavy makeup, but with a face that is clearly very young. Dragging a suitcase, she looks like a walking story. Her name is Talulah, a listener Elisabeth invited to the live broadcast. Elisabeth guides her to a small dark room to speak with Vanda on air. When the music starts and Vanda throws out a topic, Talulah becomes resistant and timid. She refuses to talk about her family or past, making the broadcast awkward. Finally, under Elisabeth's gentle, accepting gaze, Talulah slowly lowers her defenses. Work ends, and Elisabeth walks home as usual. But she finds Talulah waiting on a bench near the office, waiting for a coffee shop to open. She has nowhere to go and no home to return to. Faced with this strange, oddly dressed girl, Elisabeth feels an inexplicable sense of closeness and trust. She takes Talulah home, settles her in the storage room on the 2nd floor, and tells her she can shower downstairs if she needs to. Early the next morning, Elisabeth goes out. Matthias is playing in the living room with a friend when a beautiful stranger opens their door. Although his mother hadn't warned him, Matthias welcomes her in. At lunch, Talulah joins the family. Elisabeth learns that Talulah has no mother, and her father is an unreliable madman. She dropped out of school in the 9th grade and has been drifting ever since. After the meal, as Talulah prepares to leave, Elisabeth asks her children, if Talulah needs it, can she stay here long-term? The idea is passed to Talulah through Matthias. Young boys and girls always share a hazy restlessness. The siblings and Talulah go to the movies together. Watching romantic scenes on screen, Matthias and Talulah steal glances at each other, intentionally or not. Gradually, as Judith becomes busier with politics, Matthias and Talulah spend more time alone. Compared to the well-behaved girls at school, Talulah is undeniably a bad girl. But it is this unique beauty and wandering loneliness that fascinates Matthias. And for Talulah, how could the warm, sensitive Matthias not be moving? She slowly reveals her past life to him, taking him to the streets to beg for alcohol from rough crowds. While fighting over a bottle, they both fall into the Seine. Soaked and smelling of alcohol, they return home, only to be caught red-handed by Elisabeth. Facing a disappointed Elisabeth, Talulah turns away in shame. shame. Matthias doesn't defend himself. He just quietly goes to the storage room to be with the girl he loves. Whether catalyzed by alcohol or emotion, or perhaps Talulah's decision, that night, guided by her, Matthias completes his rite of passage into manhood. But the next day, Talulah leaves without a goodbye. The confusion of growing up and her departure plunges Matthias into the extreme anxiety of adolescence. Meanwhile, Elisabeth's life is getting back on track. Her terrible ex-husband not only abandoned the family but didn't even pay alimony. To supplement their income, Elisabeth takes a second job at a library. Though working days at the library and nights at the station is hard, the stability pulls her out of the pain of her failed marriage. She even finds love at the library. A man falls for her at first sight. He is young, yet surprisingly steady and considerate. Elisabeth had breast cancer years ago, leaving a scar, a hidden pain she's carried for years. But when the man sees it, he doesn't recoil. He holds her tighter with tenderness. Matthias works part-time at a swimming pool. He loves writing poetry and has no desire for higher education, a pursuit that puts him at odds with his peers and leaves him confused. His sister Judith has moved out to live on her own. One night, returning from visiting Judith, Elisabeth and Matthias find Talulah collapsed at their doorstep. This time, her arms are covered in needle marks. After settling her in, Elisabeth is worried sick. Should she send her to a hospital or forced rehab? Can they be responsible for this girl's future? Matthias is furious at the suggestion. Sending her away would be abandoning her all over again. Elisabeth says no more, and Talulah settles in. Matthias becomes more alive with her return. They often climb from the attic to the roof to look out at Paris at night. This is their world. The city lights beat warmly like stars on the ground. Luckily, they can curl up in one of those lights, keeping each other warm. Talulah loves movies and starts looking for auditions. Elisabeth is happy to see her finding a path, but then she discovers Talulah has relapsed. Disappointed, Elisabeth yells, "If I catch you using again, I'm kicking you out onto the street." Talulah breaks down in tears, mumbling. Because of her broken past, she believes she can't live a normal life. It's as if she was born to be wasted. Elisabeth, heartbroken, hugs the poor girl, telling her over and over, "You can do this. No one is born to be this way." Elisabeth's embrace gives Talulah strength. She pushes herself harder to live normally. One day, she gets a chance to be an extra. Matthias accompanies her to the set. After filming, the director asks Talulah to stay. Matthias watches from afar, worried. Talulah is beautiful. Living earnestly has given her a pure vitality that others can see, too. When Talulah runs over to tell him she got an audition, Matthias can't hide his jealousy and confesses his love. The 3 years apart haven't changed his feelings. Talulah freezes. Her eyes shimmer with unspoken words. After a long pause, she whispers, "I know you love me." The next day, Matthias goes to find her, but she has left without saying goodbye again. This time, however, she left a letter. She responds to his confession. Her feelings match his, but she cannot let things go further. Since childhood, she felt that everything she loved would eventually be destroyed. She wants Matthias to stay Matthias, safe and free forever. People come and go in your life. Though it may hurt, life doesn't stop and time doesn't reverse. All you can do is pull yourself together and move forward. To solve their financial crisis, Elisabeth plans to sell the apartment. The past living within these walls is fading. Judith's path is clear. Matthias, though still searching, starts submitting his writing to publishers. And Elisabeth continues her radio work, living simply with her boyfriend. While moving, Elisabeth gifts 2 treasured items to her children. To Judith, she gives a statue of a goddess. Elisabeth had once suffered a miscarriage and was terrified while pregnant with Judith. This statue gave her the courage to give birth. Judith has indeed grown into a warrior. To Matthias, she gives a diary she started after her divorce. It records daily fragments and reflections that helped her survive the hard times. At the end of the diary is a memory Matthias had forgotten. One morning, Elisabeth read a listener's letter from the passengers of the night to her children. They jokingly encouraged her, "You could write to Vanda too, couldn't you?" That was the moment Elisabeth's second life truly began. Life is like a sine wave, highs and lows, grief and joy interwoven. Just keep walking. No matter when, there is always new scenery waiting ahead. Alright, that's all for today's sharing. I'm Bahal. See you next time.